Hi guys! With it constantly getting colder and with it also being Christmas time, well it is for me at least, to kick off our winter and Christmas recipes, we're going to be making homemade marshmallows today that are actually good for us. Now once again, if you don't want a history lesson, go ahead and fast forward to further along in the video. Now marshmallows were first enjoyed by the ancient Egyptians in 2000 BC. It was considered a very special treat that was reserved for the gods and for royalty. It was made from the sap of the mallow plant, which grows wild in marshes. Its true or scientific name being Althea officinalis, which this plant is not only known for providing us this special treat, but it also has medicinal properties. But I'll talk about that more in another video. And the name marshmallow comes from, as it suggests, the plant being named the mallow plant, which grows wild in marshes, so marshmallow. Although this treat dates back to 2000 BC, no one's quite sure what this treat may have looked like then. But we do know that they squeezed the sap from the plant and mixed it with nuts and honey. Then in the early to mid 1800s, marshmallow was introduced to France, where a small candy shop owner whipped the sap of the plant into a fluffy candy mold. The treat was then introduced to the US in the 1900s, where it became popular, where it's still popular to this day as Americans are the primary consumers of marshmallow, consuming more than 90 million pounds annually. And a few fun facts about marshmallow: the marshmallow capital of the world is Ligonier, Noble County, Indiana. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. And each summer, more than 50% of marshmallows sold eventually end up roasted over a fire. Now let's go ahead and hop into that recipe. For delicious and nutritious homemade marshmallow, you'll need 1/3 cup of cool water, 1/3 cup of water just off the boil, 4 tablespoons of grass-fed gelatin, 1 cup of sweetener. I suggest choosing a natural sweetener such as honey or maple syrup, but most of any sweetener will work. I'm going to be using maple syrup, 1/4 teaspoon of mineral salt, such as a mineral sea salt, pink Himalayan salt, or a Celtic salt. I'll be using a pink Himalayan salt. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I highly advise against using the imitation vanilla. And optional, you'll want to use powdered sugar or arrowroot starch to toss the marshmallows in to keep them from sticking. Before starting, I highly recommend rubbing the utensils you'll be using in a coconut oil or a butter, just because the marshmallows will try to stick to it. Now let's get started. You're gonna wanna break out your hefty stand mixer. You're also gonna wanna use your whisk attachment. In our bowl of our stand mixer, we'll go ahead and add our 1/3 cup of cool water, and we'll sprinkle the gelatin on top. That way it's able to bloom as it soaks in the water. We'll allow it to bloom for a minute or so. Now we'll go ahead and add our 1/3 cup of water just off the boil. We'll just pour it directly on top. Now we'll go ahead and give it a stir until the gelatin dissolves. Now we'll go ahead and place our bowl onto our stand mixer and turn it on the lowest setting. We'll then slowly add our sweetener. Now that our sweetener is incorporated, we'll go ahead and add the remaining ingredients. Once the remaining ingredients are added, we'll go ahead and turn the mixer onto high, and we'll beat the mixture until soft peaks form. And the longer you beat the mixture, the more rustic your marshmallows will be, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It'll just be quite difficult to spread it into the pan. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the mixer back onto that lowest setting to add the remaining ingredients. And then, like I said, I'll turn it up to the high setting. To create those soft peaks, it literally takes about 20-30 seconds. You're now going to want to grab a baking dish that's lined with parchment paper, and you're going to want to rub the parchment paper with coconut oil. A little kitchen hack is, if you don't like the way that the parchment paper kind of ruffles and doesn't fit right in the pan, if you cut about 3 to 4 inches along the diagonal, it'll kind of puzzle itself into the pan and sit very nicely. I'll show you what I mean. You can see where I just cut literally along the corner or the diagonal, whatever you want to call it. And then I just place it in the pan. And also, I suggest that you use an 8x8 baking dish. But if you're planning on wanting to make cutouts of the marshmallows, use a little bit bigger of a dish, such as a 9x9 or maybe even a 9x13. You should have something that looks like this. We're now going to refrigerate our marshmallows for an hour or until they've set. You're going to want to grab a cutting board that's been lined with parchment paper that's been rubbed with coconut oil or butter. You'll also need a sharp knife that's been rubbed with butter or coconut oil, and you'll want to have some butter or coconut oil on the side just because as we cut the marshmallows, we might need to re-oil the knife. And here we have our marshmallows that have been refrigerated for an hour and are set. To check that they're set, you just want to kind of jiggle the pan and make sure that the marshmallows themselves don't really jiggle. We're now just going to transfer the marshmallows onto the cutting board. And we'll go ahead and just cut them up into little cubes. And here we have our marshmallows. They're so cute. Now optionally, you can go ahead and dust them with powdered sugar or arrowroot starch to keep them from sticking whenever you store them and to give them that kind of typical marshmallow look. But typically, I choose not to dust them with anything. But I'll go ahead and dust one to show you what it would look like. Here I have just some plain powdered sugar, and all we're gonna do is just lightly toss it in the powdered sugar. And this is what it looks like when you toss it in either the powdered sugar or the arrowroot starch. I might as well just go ahead and toss them all in the powdered sugar. And here we have our finished marshmallows that are, once again, nutritious and delicious. Now to store this little treat, you'll just want to place them in an airtight container and then store them in the fridge or in the freezer. Now if you're planning on roasting these, you'll want to place them on a cookie rack and leave them out at room temperature, just for a few days so they can create a dry shell on the outside. I hope this recipe was helpful for all your holiday baking, numerous cups of hot chocolate if you're like me, and even for your summer campfires. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting or at least enjoyable. If you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future content. If you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave those below in the comments section. Happy holidays!